Hollywood Brown, former Ravens receiver, now Cardinals receiver, one of the surprises of the draft. Not surprising to the Ravens, not surprising to Lamar Jackson, even though he acted surprised. Here is Hollywood Brown talking about his decision to ask to be traded out of Baltimore.
Like, we hadn't heard it, this offseason. So you specifically asked the Ravens for a trade.
Yeah, I asked them for a trade after the season. It was just some like my happiness. I mean, I talked to Lamar about it, after my second year. And, then after my third year leading up to the end of the season, he wasn't playing. I let him know again, like, yeah, bro, I can't do it. And, it's not really on Lamar. Like, I love Lamar. It was just, it's just the system wasn't for me personally. I love all my teammates. I love the guys. But it was just, something I had to think about for myself. And, the Ravens, we both handled it the right way. I didn't go out and make anything public. I just kept it in-house, kept working. And, it all worked out.
That was for I Am Athlete Nightly, now on Sirius XM Mad Dog Radio, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. And look, that was a very telling comment. Now, last night, Eric DeCosta, the GM of the Ravens, disclosed that Hollywood Brown had asked to be traded at the end of the 2021 season. And we knew from the 2020 season he was upset at times about his usage. Who wouldn't be? They've had a hard time getting free agent receivers to voluntarily join the Baltimore Ravens. So the only thing you can do is force people to come work for you via a draft. This is one of the examples of a draft maybe not being something that a person would be interested in, because I don't really want to go play for the Ravens. Like, they're going to draft a receiver tonight, probably. That guy's not going to be real happy because you're not going to get to do the thing that you want to do, especially as more and more NFL offenses are throwing the ball all over the place. You're not. And somehow Hollywood Brown still had 1,000 receiving yards last year, just barely, but he did. But he wanted out. And Myles, Lamar Jackson acted surprised. He acted upset. He retweeted a very profane tweet that expressed dismay and shock that Hollywood Brown was traded. He created the impression he was mad at the team. Not mad at Hollywood Brown, mad at the team. And that's very disingenuous. It really is. And I think that Lamar Jackson at some level did not want this to be a reflection on him, that guys don't want to play with him. Not because they don't like him, as Hollywood Brown says, I love him, but why be in that system? Lamar Jackson is the system, and the Lamar Jackson system is the receivers don't get a lot of footballs thrown their way. That's what the Ravens have created around Lamar Jackson.
And it won him an MVP in 2019. So, there's reason to believe that this system works. Now, the Ravens spent a lot of time last year trying to improve their passing game, and who knows what would have happened if the injuries did not pile up as they did for Baltimore last year. But I think, look, Marquise Brown was very clear, even before last season, that this system was tough for wide receivers. I mean, Mike, you brought it up. They've had trouble bringing guys into that place. T.Y. Hilton decided to go back to the Colts last year instead of going to Baltimore. Juju Smith-Schuster elected to go back to Pittsburgh instead of going to Baltimore. They ended up having to settle for somebody like Sammy Watkins, and Sammy Watkins really didn't do all that much in that system either. I mean, now he only signed a $4 million deal with the Green Bay Packers in free agency. So I understand from the standpoint of Marquise Brown, where you're like, hey, man, I was a really good receiver in college, and now I've only had barely one 1,000-yard season. This ain't for me. Like, if I'm going to maximize my value as a receiver, especially in the way things have exploded for wide receiver contracts, I've got to go someplace else where I know I can actually catch the ball. So I get why Marquise Brown wanted out. And I also kind of get why Lamar Jackson has had his public reaction the way that he's had it. Even if you understand what's going on privately, it's different when you finally get to show some outward emotion, and this was the first time that he really could do that because it's the first time that it was made public. So I get it from his standpoint of look, I don't like this. I like playing with Marquise Brown. I don't want to give up Marquise Brown as a weapon, but at the same time, you're right that it's a little bit disingenuous that to make it appear like he didn't know what was going on. I have a hard time believing that, especially when Brown goes on, where he is, and it says Lamar Jackson and I have talked about this. This wasn't really a surprise to anybody privately.
I suspect that some folks with the Ravens would be disappointed in the way that Lamar Jackson handled it, because it does create the impression there's a rift between player and team that really isn't there. They've got their own issues. Obviously, they can't get Lamar Jackson to come negotiate with them on a long-term deal, and at some point they have to make plans for the future with the possibility that Lamar won't be there. And when you've completely restructured your offense to suit the unique and very special talents of one person, and that person then potentially is removed from the equation, you've got a problem. And I like the idea that they're doing something different from everyone else. It makes it harder for defenses to prepare for you. It's like when the Patriots were the only team that ran the 3-4, and Peyton Manning could never solve the 3-4. He never saw the 3-4. Then he started seeing it more, and he got better at playing against the 3-4 defense. So if the Ravens are the only ones with this offense, good luck getting ready, because you're always preparing for a different offense. But the problem is you're going to have pieces of that offense, players on that offense, that are never going to be valued by you. The Ravens aren't going to pay somebody $25 million a year to play receiver. That's not happening. And you're never going to create the body of work that makes you attractive to someone else to justify that kind of money. So it's an unfortunate situation, but I think it's going to happen with Rashad Bateman, who was a first-round pick last year. If he begins to flourish and thrive, he's going to want out. Whoever they draft tonight, if he does well within the confines of that offense and feels like he could do a lot better with the team that actually throws the ball all over the place, he's going to – it's human nature. And that's what the receiver position is. They're guys who want the football. They don't just want to run pass routes and block. They want to catch the ball. They want the ball in the air. They want to show what they can do. They want to make things happen. They want to be in the middle of excitement. It's hard to convince a guy to willingly do nothing, or at least do less than what he thinks he can do. So it's a problem the Ravens have, and it's not a good problem to have. You could say, it's a good problem to have. It's not a good problem to have.
Certainly not. But I think, beyond what you were just saying, it's like, look, if guys are seeing the top wideouts right now, or even somebody like A.J. Brown, right, he's going to get an average annual value of $25 million a year. And this is somebody who's barely gone over 1,000 yards in each of his first two seasons, didn't reach that mark in 2021. And frankly, I love A.J. Brown as a player as much as anybody. So I don't say this to, put A.J. Brown down, but look, that's what the receiver market is. So again, if you're Marquise Brown and you're in this offense, that's not really going to happen for you, at least with the Ravens. Now, the kind of counterpoint that I think of now is, what if the Ravens feel like they have to evolve their offense beyond what Greg Roman has and has put forth for them now? Right? Because it's not like Lamar Jackson's a bad player. Again, he won an MVP a couple of years ago, and it's not like they haven't had success with this. But if you're going to have receivers basically say, I don't want to play here because this offensive system doesn't maximize me, how do you then make sure you're getting the max out of everybody in your scheme and not just Lamar Jackson, your OLs and your running backs? I think it poses a problem for the Ravens that, again, it's not really a good problem to have, because you've had success with Greg Roman. But if this is the kind of thing that receivers are going to start saying, it's like, I want out. I can't. I can't. Like, this doesn't work for me. Then at what point does that fall? Does John Harbaugh start thinking like, man, what am I going to do?
Well, I think this is the fundamental problem, and I'm going to try to make this as succinctly and clearly as possible. Greg Roman was at the 49ers when Colin Kaepernick was at his best, and they had evolved the offense to the point where if you were able to take away Colin Kaepernick's running, he would torch you with his arm. If you took away his arm, he would torch you with his legs. It was the ultimate in pick your poison with a quarterback who could do it all. I think in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson runs so well that they become like the kid that's got three, or the grown man, as the case may be, three Madden plays that work and just keep using the same three Madden plays. And yeah, I want to try some different things. I want to do some different things. I think I can do some different things. But man, once we get into the fray, I know what works, and I'm going to keep doing it, and we're just going to keep doing it. And I don't know whether that's a decision that's made in the heat of the moment by the play caller. I don't know whether there are options Lamar Jackson has to either throw or run, and he just decides, screw it, I can go run for 15 yards here, and I don't mind taking the physical pounding. I don't know. But I know that Greg Roman is capable of having an offense that if you load up to stop the run, like the Packers did week 1 of the 2013 season, after Colin Kaepernick set a playoff quarterback rushing record in the postseason against the Packers. They get together week 1, and he throws for 412 yards against the Packers when they're determined to not let him beat them with his legs. Roman can do that. He can come up with that. And maybe that's something that they really need to focus on doing. And, the truth may be, Myles, maybe they're trying and it just doesn't work because Lamar is so good at running the ball, they just can't get away from it when it's time to go try to win football games.
Or is it just that peak Colin Kaepernick as a passer is simply better than Lamar Jackson as a passer? And I don't mean that to say that Lamar Jackson's a bad passer, because we've seen him make good throws. But, in the clips we were just playing, that ball, that deep ball to Marquise Brown, that ball was quacking a little bit, right? It's not the same sort of laser that we used to see from peak Colin Kaepernick. So, again, this is a sort of interesting push and pull right now that the Ravens have. I don't quite know how they solve that.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.